The forest of Cindralis was a world apart, cloaked in a twilight that never fully surrendered to night or day. Ancient trees, their bark veined with molten gold, rose like silent sentinels. The air itself felt alive, humming faintly with the weight of stories long since faded into myth. It was in this shadowed cradle that a crystalline egg, gleaming faintly like a shard of captured moonlight, lay nestled among the roots of an elder tree. From within came the soft tapping of life, delicate yet insistent. The shell fractured, and out spilled a creature both fragile and luminous, a baby dragon with scales that shimmered faintly like dying embers. Solis was his name, a gift whispered by the winds as he took his first breath. Solis was smaller than the others in his clutch, his wings fragile, his claws untested. Unlike his siblings, whose breaths could summon flames from birth, his exhalations produced only fleeting wisps of heatless smoke. Among the elder dragons, whispers began to spread, soft as falling ash, yet heavy with judgment. "Not an ember wing," they muttered, "just a spark too weak to ignite." The term emberwing carried weight among their kind. Legends spoke of dragons born under rare celestial alignments, destined to wield fire, not as a weapon but as art, painting the skies with their flames. But Solis's scales bore no radiant glow, and his breath held no promise of such splendor. The nights in Cindralis were long and dream-haunted. The forest canopy veiled the heavens in shadow, letting only the faintest pricks of starlight filter through. Yet for Solis, the stars were never truly silent. As he curled beneath the shelter of the elder tree, the faintest whispers brushed against his mind. They were neither words nor music, but something in between, a language felt rather than heard. "Seek the fire within," the whispers urged, soft and enigmatic, like a half-remembered lullaby. Each night the voice returned, growing no louder, but more insistent. Solis kept the whispers to himself, fearing the ridicule of his kin. How could a dragon without flame dare to dream of stars? Yet he found himself drawn to the forest's edges, where the shadows grew deeper, and the air carried a sense of ancient, untamed magic. It was during one of these secret wanderings that Solis first saw them, the lights. They flickered deep within the forest, faint and fleeting, like fireflies caught in the breeze. But these were no ordinary lights. Each pulse seemed to echo in his chest, resonating with the whispers that had become his nightly companions. Compelled by a force he could not name, Solis ventured further, his small claws sinking into the soft, mossy ground. The forest grew quieter with each step, as if holding its breath. He passed beneath a colossal archway formed by the twisted branches of two ancient trees, their bark etched with glowing runes. Beyond the arch, the air was different, thicker, alive with an almost electric hum. It was then that he saw the pyres. A circle of stones worn smooth by time surrounded a cluster of dormant fires. Their embers lay cold, yet they shimmered faintly, as though caught in a dream. Solis approached, his heart pounding. These were the Pyres of Solstice Vale, a place spoken of only in cautionary tales. The elders had forbidden all but the most skilled dragons to tread here, claiming the fires were too powerful, too wild for the unworthy to touch. Yet the whispers grew louder now, a chorus calling him forward. Solis hesitated, fear and curiosity warring within him. His claws hovered over the largest pyre, its embers pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. "Do you seek the flame, little one?" The voice was not the whispers, but something older, deeper, and far more knowing. It seemed to rise from the pyre itself, weaving through the air like smoke. Solis froze, unsure whether to answer or flee. I cannot create fire," he admitted, his voice trembling. The pyre pulsed, its light growing stronger. "You misunderstand. Fire is not always heat. Sometimes it is light. Sometimes it is a story. And sometimes..." The embers flared briefly, casting strange shadows. "It is the whisper of stars, waiting for a voice to set them free." Solis's breath caught as the ember's glow bathed him in golden light. For a brief moment, he felt it. A spark, faint but undeniable, stirring deep within his chest. The whispers returned, no longer distant but clear and resonant. "Seek the pyres. Wake the stars. Your fire is not what they expect, but it is enough." And with that, the light faded, leaving Solis alone in the dark, his heart ablaze with questions and a flicker of hope. The Pyres of Solstice Vale were the stuff of lore, a sacred ground where the ancient fire of dragons mingled with the breath of stars. Few dared approach, for the pyres were said to awaken only in the presence of those deemed worthy by forces far older than dragonkind. Solis, trembling yet compelled, found himself standing before them, a flickering ember against the vastness of their dormant power. The forest around him seemed to fade into a hushed void. Only the pyres remained, their faint glow illuminating the swirling patterns etched into the stones encircling them. The markings shifted under his gaze, as though alive, telling stories he could not yet comprehend. Solis's claws tingled as he stepped closer, his breath catching in the charged air. A voice, low and resonant, like the rumble of distant thunder, rose from the largest pyre. "You seek what lies hidden. Yet, do you understand what it means to awaken the sky?" Solis hesitated, his fear tangling with the whispers that had guided him here. "I don't know what I seek," he admitted, his voice barely louder than a breath. "But I feel called." The pyre pulsed softly, as though considering his words. "There is a fire within you, little one, though it slumbers deeply. To awaken it, you must first understand the truth of flame. It is not destruction. It is creation, illumination, transformation." The pyre's embers flared, casting fleeting shapes into the air. Dragons spiraling through constellations, their fiery breaths weaving stories across the night sky. Solis watched, entranced, as the shapes flickered and faded, leaving behind trails of golden light. These pyres hold fragments of the stars, the voice continued. Long ago, dragons walked among the heavens, etching their tails into the fabric of the cosmos. But their light faded, their stories forgotten. You have been chosen, Solis, to rekindle what was lost. Solis's heart thudded in his chest. Chosen? But I can't even breathe fire. How can I awaken the stars? Fire is not merely heat, the voice reminded him, echoing the whispers he had heard in his dreams. It is the essence of possibility. The flames you bear are unlike those of your kin, but they are no less powerful. If you doubt, place your claw upon the pyre and feel the truth. Solis hesitated. The pyre's glow seemed to pulse in time with his racing heartbeat. Summoning what little courage he could muster, he reached out, his claw trembling. The moment he touched the pyre, a surge of energy rushed through him, neither hot nor cold, but overwhelming in its intensity. Images flooded his mind, stars being born, their light scattering across infinite darkness. Dragons soaring between worlds, their flames weaving constellations. He gasped, pulling his claw back, his breath ragged. I saw everything, he whispered, his voice shaking. But I'm too small, too weak. Even the smallest spark can ignite a fire that changes the world, the voice replied. The new year approaches, and with it, the alignment of the stars. On that night, you will awaken your flame and etch the constellations anew. The weight of the words settled over him. Solis glanced at the other pyres, their embers still dim but pulsing faintly, as if waiting. And if I fail? The voice grew softer, almost mournful. If the stars are not awakened, their light will fade, their stories lost to eternity. But failure is not written yet. You have time to learn, to grow. Solis nodded, though doubt still coiled in his chest. The pyre's glow dimmed, leaving only faint traces of light on the stones. The forest seemed to stir around him, as if awakening from its stillness, and the weight of the moment lifted slightly. He turned to leave, his mind a storm of questions and fear. As he passed beneath the archway of ruined trees, the whispers returned, faint but steady. You are not alone, Solis. The stars watch over you, and their fire is yours to command. The path back to his clutch felt longer than before, the forest's shadows pressing closer. Yet as he emerged into the familiar twilight of Cindralis, a tiny spark flickered within him, a glimmer of purpose that refused to fade. The days passed in a haze of quiet resolve. Solis returned to the pyres each night, the whispers of the forest guiding his path like a faint thread of starlight in the dark. The pyres, though dormant to the eye, began to respond to his presence, their embers pulsing faintly as if stirred by the flicker of his growing courage. Yet, the weight of the task loomed heavy. How could he, a flameless dragon, awaken the stars? One night, beneath the arching branches of the elder trees, the pyres blazed brighter than ever before, their embers leaping into the air like golden fireflies. Solis felt the hum in his chest grow stronger, more insistent, as if his own heartbeat were attuned to the rhythm of the flames. Then, from the largest pyre, a figure began to take shape. An ethereal being composed of swirling stardust, its form shifting and shimmering with every breath of wind. The creature's gaze was not bound by eyes, yet Solis felt it pierce through him, seeing not just his scales and wings, but the very essence of his being. You have come far, young dragon," it said, its voice like the harmony of 1,000 distant bells. "But the path ahead is steep, and time grows short." Who are you?" Solis stammered, his voice trembling. "I am the stargazer, a keeper of the celestial flames," the figure replied, its form flickering briefly before solidifying again. "Long ago, dragons and stars danced together, their fates entwined. It was through their flames that the constellations were born. But as dragons turned their fire to war and ruin, they forgot their place among the heavens. The stars dimmed, and their stories began to fade. The stargazer moved closer, its form radiating a warmth that was not of heat, but of quiet reassurance. "You are one of the last emberwings, Solis, a bearer of a flame not meant to destroy but to create. On the night of the new year, the stars will align, offering one chance to restore their light. You must etch their stories into the sky once more." Solis's wings drooped, his doubt spilling forth. "But I can't even breathe fire. The others, my kin, they would laugh at the idea of me doing something so important." The stargazer's form flickered, as if the stars themselves pulsed with a silent laughter. "Fire is not only what you see in the world of flesh and earth, it is what burns within, a spark of wonder, of creation, of belief. Yours is a fire that does not consume but transforms. Do not measure your worth by the heat of your flame, but by the light it brings." The stargazer raised a shimmering claw, tracing patterns in the air that left trails of light, forming a constellation Solis had never seen. "The stars are stories, Solis. Each one carries the memory of those who came before. Dragons, mortals, and even the heavens themselves. They are waiting for you to tell their tale." Solis stared at the constellation, its lines forming the shape of a great phoenix rising from flames. He felt a stirring within him, faint but undeniable. "How do I do it?" he asked, his voice steadier now. "How do I bring their stories back?" "You have already begun," the stargazer said, its voice softer now. "Listen to the pyres, for they hold the wisdom of dragons past. Practice with their embers. Let them guide your claws, your breath, your spirit. And when the stars align, let your flame dance with theirs. The figure began to fade, its light dispersing into the night like scattered fireflies. But before it vanished completely, its voice lingered, faint as a whisper, but clear as a bell. Do not fear failure, Solis. The stars chose you because they see what you cannot yet see in yourself. Trust in your spark, and it will become a flame. As the forest fell silent once more, Solis stood alone among the pyres. The stargazer's words echoed in his mind, their weight settling into his heart. The stars were not distant watchers, cold and indifferent. They were waiting companions, ready to dance to the rhythm of his flame. The young dragon looked up, his gaze piercing through the misty canopy. For the first time, the stars felt closer, their light not just a faint shimmer, but a promise. With a deep breath, he turned back to the pyres, his step steadier, his resolve firm. The path ahead was uncertain, but Solis knew one thing for sure. He would not falter. The New Year's Eve loomed closer, the air growing sharper and heavier, as if the very fabric of time was preparing to shift. Solis spent each night at the pyres, their embers a patient teacher, their warmth a steady companion. He discovered that the flames, though faint, responded to his touch, rising and shaping themselves into fleeting images. It began small, a flicker here, a swirl of golden light there. Each attempt was a conversation, silent and profound, between the dragon and the ancient fire. The whispers in his dream had changed. No longer faint and elusive, they now carried a melody, a rhythm that guided his claws and his breath. Solis listened, practiced, and learned, until one night the embers danced at his command. The pyres revealed their secrets in fragments. They taught him the weight of a single spark, the balance needed to weave light into forms that told stories. The stars are watching, the largest pyre murmured, its voice crackling like a distant storm. They will know if your flame falters, but they will also know if it shines. As the final night arrived, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Creatures from every corner of the Cindralis gathered in the twilight, their eyes glinting with anticipation. Even the elder dragons, their scales shimmering with ancient power, settle around the pyres, their usual air of superiority tempered by curiosity. The night carried a strange energy, a sense that something monumental was about to unfold. Solis stood at the heart of the circle, his scales catching the faint light of the pyres. His claws dug nervously into the earth as he glanced at the crowd. Whispers rippled through the gathering, some filled with doubt, others with cautious hope. "He's too young," someone murmured. "An Emberwing? Him?" scoffed another. Solis closed his eyes, shutting out the noise. Instead, he focused on the whispers that had never left him, the soft melody of the stars that now felt like a part of him. He took a deep breath, the cold air filling his lungs, and exhaled, not fire, but light. A single spark leapt from his breath and hung in the air, trembling like a newborn star. It flickered, dim at first, but as Solis reached out, it responded. He guided it gently, his claws weaving the spark into a trail of light. The pyres flared in unison, their embers rising to join his flame. The spark grew, stretching and bending, until it formed the shape of a dragon, a great winged beast that soared across the sky, its fiery wings leaving trails of golden light. The crowd gasped as the image solidified, glowing brighter than the stars above. Solis didn't stop. The whispers in his mind swelled into a chorus, and he moved with them, his breath steady, his claws precise. Another spark followed and another, until the sky was filled with shapes. A mighty phoenix, a great serpent winding through the heavens, a pair of winged lions locked in an eternal dance. Each constellation told a story, their light weaving tales of courage, love, and loss. The elder dragons watched in stunned silence, their eyes reflecting the brilliance of Solis's creations. The younger dragons, who had once mocked his inability to breathe fire, now looked on with wide-eyed awe. The stars themselves seemed to respond, their light growing brighter, as though honoring the tales that Solis was bringing to life. The constellations moved, shifting and transforming, their dance a harmony of flame and starlight. The sky was no longer a cold, distant expanse, but a living canvas, alive with the stories of dragons past and present. As the final spark faded, the crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising like a wave. Solis stood in the center of the pyres, his chest heaving, his scales glowing faintly from the effort. The whispers were silent now, their work complete, but their presence lingered, a quiet reassurance in the back of his mind. The largest pyre flared once more, its voice warm and steady. You have awakened the sky, Solis. The stars remember their stories, and through your flame, they shine again. Solis looked up, the constellations still blazing above, and for the first time, he felt the truth of the stargazer's words. His fire was not the kind that destroyed. It was the kind that created, that illuminated. He was not alone in his flame, for the stars were his companions, their light a reflection of his own. As the crowd began to disperse, their voices filled with wonder, Solis remained by the pyres. He gazed at the sky, his heart steady and full. The stars seemed to whisper his name, their light brighter than it had been in centuries. The night was his, and the stars would never forget. The crowd had gone, leaving the pyres smouldering in quiet triumph. Solis sat in their glow, his body weary but his heart ablaze. Above, the constellations he had woven lingered, their forms etched across the heavens. They shimmered with a light that felt alive, as though they were not mere stars but the breath of the cosmos itself, awakened after an eternity of silence. He traced the patterns with his eyes, the phoenix rising from ashes, the great serpent curling through the void, the winged lions locked in their eternal waltz. Each constellation pulsed faintly, as if grateful to have their stories told again. Solis felt their gratitude, a warmth that spread through him, like the embrace of a long-lost friend. Yet, as he stared into the vast expanse, the silence of the night shifted. It was not the stillness of the pyres or the peace of slumbering forest creatures. It was something deeper, more profound, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. Then, from the largest pyre, the faint outline of the stargazer reappeared, its form more solid than before. "You have done well, Solis," it said, its voice quieter now, as though spoken not to the ears but to the soul. "The stars are awake, their stories restored, but their light must be tended, their tales retold, or they will fade once more." Solis tilted his head, confusion flickering in his eyes. "What do you mean? The constellations? They'll stay, won't they? They'll keep shining?" The stargazer's gaze softened, its swirling form flickering like a candle in the wind. "Light is not eternal without a keeper. The stars, though vast and ancient, rely on the fire within to burn bright. Just as you awaken their stories tonight, you must ensure they are never forgotten." The weight of the words settled over Solis like a mantle. His scales, still faintly glowing from the pyre's warmth, felt heavier now, as if carrying a responsibility he had not fully understood until this moment. "You're saying I must stay? That this is my role now?" The stargazer nodded. "You are their voice, their guide. The stars have chosen you, not as a fleeting hero, but as their keeper. The pyres will teach you, and in turn, you will teach the sky." Solis's heart tightened. A part of him had dreamed of returning to his clutch, proving to his kin that he was more than a flameless hatchling. He had imagined their astonished faces, their grudging respect. But now, standing beneath the constellations he had created, he realized that this moment, this calling, was far greater than anything he had envisioned for himself. "What if I fail?" he asked, his voice small but steady. "What if the stars fade again?" The stargazer's light dimmed, its form shimmering as though blending with the night. "You will not fail, Solis, because you understand what so many before you did not. That fire is not destruction, but creation. You have given the stars not just light, but meaning. As long as you remember this, their stories will never fade." The pyres pulsed softly, their embers casting faint patterns on the ground. Solis felt the rhythm of their light, a steady beat that seemed to echo his own heartbeat. The whispers returned, no longer distant, but clear and resonant, like a song that had always been a part of him. "I'll do it," he said finally. his voice firm despite the weight of his choice. "I'll keep their stories alive." The stargazer smiled, or perhaps it was the flicker of its light that seemed like a smile. "Then the stars will never dim, and neither will you, Solis." As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the constellations began to fade, their forms dissolving into the soft hues of morning. But Solis did not feel sadness at their departure. He knew they had not disappeared. They had merely rested, waiting for the night to reclaim the sky. Solis turned to the pyres, their warmth steady and welcoming. The forest around him seemed to hum with approval, as if the world itself recognized his place within it. He sat by the largest pyre, its embers flaring briefly in recognition, and gazed up at the pale sky. The stars were hidden now, but their whispers remained, a constant melody that only he could hear. And so, the smallest dragon became the keeper of the sky. His flame, though unlike any other, burned brighter than even the elders could have imagined. Through him the stars told their stories, their light shining not just in the heavens, but in the hearts of all who dared to dream. For as long as Solis breathed, the stars would never fade, their constellations eternal, their light a beacon of hope and wonder for generations to come.